Welcome to the Myesha podcast. I'm super excited about today's episode because I am going to talk to you about the power of sharing your story. I get this question all the time. I have a story. I don't know where to start. What did you do? How do you do it? I just want to have this conversation because so many of us have this power of storytelling, especially as it relates to our own story, and we keep it hidden, we keep it to ourselves. When it comes to sharing your personal story, and if you didn't know, about 2 years ago, maybe longer, maybe almost 3 years ago, I went through a difficult time in my life, and I waited a year and I launched a YouTube channel and shared my story. Okay. It was public. I shared as best as I could about my experiences. That story touched a lot of people. It low key went viral. And it was actually the start of me talking a lot more about what I was going through. And I did it honestly and as vulnerably as I could. And because of that, people respected that I didn't badmouth other people in my story, that I was able to cover some grounds and to have a logical progression without it feeling negative and harmful. And they wanted to know, well, how did you do it? Here's the thing. Being able to share your story is very important. You have the ability to do it. Oftentimes, we are worried about other people in the story. We are worried about what somebody's going to say in response to our truth. We're worrying about our children and how they're going to respond. We're worrying about our parents, they're still alive. I did a lot of work with people who've been molested and abused. And the number one thing was, I don't want my mama to know. I don't want my daddy to know. I don't want my grandma to know. It's a secret that they felt like they had to carry for the rest of their life to protect the people in their life who at the time didn't protect them. So, what I find is very, very important for anybody that's wanting to share their story. You've been through something, you've walked through something, you know it, right? It doesn't matter how small it is. Your story is your own. And you should have that ability to share when you need to, as long as it benefits the people that are listening. So, I think it's very, very important to get clear on what you want to do and why you want to do it. It's important to share your story with people in your life who love you, people in your life who can hear you. It's like a practice. It helps reinforce that you're not crazy. It helps to give you some sort of comfort that you can be heard. It also helps you flesh out your thoughts and your experiences. A lot of us who share our story or are passionate about sharing it haven't really shared it yet. And we're using that moment to kind of say everything we wanted to say all at once without having metabolized it first. The reason I was able to share my story because I got to a place where I didn't cry when I talked about it. That's how I knew I was ready. I had allowed what I experienced to metabolize enough to sit in my soul. And then I had done enough healing work that it wasn't to blame anybody else that was involved. I took full responsibility and accountability for my role in my life. That allowed me to share with a certain kind of conviction because it wasn't my first time. Now, I didn't have a lot of people in my life, so I shared with my family, like blood-related family, and with my therapist that I had paid on a weekly basis for 5 years to talk to. But that was my training ground. That was my way of being honest, because at that point in my life, I had never been honest with anyone about my true experience in my story. I was 40 years old and I had never fully shared truthfully a long part of what I was dealing with, especially as it relates to my marriage. I always felt authentic. I always felt vulnerable where I would share things, isolated things in a message, in a sermon on social media. I would do that. But this was my first time really saying to the public, this is me. I had hidden myself behind this perfectly crafted veneer. I had hidden behind this perfect marriage. And now it was done and failed. And I had to fess up to the world. It was my first time publicly talking about it. But I had already been talking about it with myself, with my soul, with my therapist, with my family, and I had done some work in that area. So I'd say if you want to share your story, allow it to metabolize. Your raw feelings are fine, but here's what I've learned. Now that I'm years beyond that, I'm already rethinking how I could have done it differently because I'm a different person now. So when you are sharing your story, when you're wanting it to be impactful to other people, you have to think you're going to keep growing and you're going to keep expanding who you are. And your future self will want to be proud of you when you share it. It's okay if you're in a safe space. I hosted Hiding Behind the Lipstick for years, and women from all walks of life came and bared their soul about things they've never shared with anybody alive because the burden of that secret was a lot to bear. So I have created space for people to come and confess their affairs and all kinds of things that they had been doing that they couldn't take the weight of it anymore. And it was safe and it was healthy and it was positive. But for the most part, when you are sharing something that somebody else is a part of, there's consideration to that. You need to be okay with your experience being your experience. You can't make somebody else look good in your story. You can't. That's not your responsibility to cover other people. It's your responsibility to be clear on your experience, what you want to say, how you want to say it, what you've learned from it, and what the take home is going to be. Okay? You got to deal with the negative responses of the people who may be in your story. There is nothing that anybody can do to go back and fix what has happened in your life. And if your number one concern is, well, what will my mom say? Then work on what your mom would say. Work on being okay with being a human in this life and having an experience that may not seem amazing to another person. Because we all know the truth. We all have been living a long time and we know that everybody's life isn't perfect. So that's a step that you will have to take, is resolving that within yourself, that as long as your intention is not to hurt somebody, then you deserve to be heard, and that's okay. The other thing I would say if you're telling your story is, what is the goal of the sharing? For me, in sharing about my divorce, the goal was for me to be heard. I needed to stand up to the bullies in my life. I needed to stand up to the fear that if I don't keep up with an illusion, that I lose everything. I needed to know that my thoughts were warranted and that I had the ability to have my own voice in this life. That story and sharing that story actually paved the way for me to keep doing what I wanted to do without fear of consequence. I felt deeply that if I talked, then I would get retaliation, I would be harmed, that something would go wrong. I had a lot of fear surrounding that because I had for so many years presented such a perfect side. To say anything but perfection was going to be a problem in my estimation. So the goal of me sharing my story was partially to help other people on the journey, because I was also very disappointed that for a Christian woman or a pastor's wife or anybody in my seat to have to go through such a gut-wrenching experience and not have a blueprint from somebody else was just like, what? You'd be hard-pressed to find credible people talking about their divorce experience, especially with partners that are still alive and trying to make money and trying to live a life. Um, I know on the secular side, I had access to a lot more, but for the spiritual, for the God piece, for believers, there was nothing. And I just refused to go through one of the most hurtful seasons of my life, the hardest thing I've ever had to do ever, and not leave something for somebody else to benefit. So that was my motivation. When I shared, I knew I was ready. I was in Bali. I got a word from God in Bali. Go home, do a YouTube channel. Your first episode is your divorce story. That's all I knew. I didn't rehearse anything. I didn't go over anything. I flew back home on a Friday. I recorded that Monday. I did a one take. I shared for 30 minutes straight without any cutting, without any pausing, nothing. Purely from God, because I had already sat with what happened. I had already grown in a lot of ways. I had already settled that it was the best thing that needed to happen. I was clear about my relationship with God. It was just, and I just did it. And I did not care about what other people were going to say. I walked the line as best as I could to be honoring of my children. And I did the best that I could reasonably. Now, I could have said a lot of other things, but I didn't feel God called me to say those things. I achieved what I needed to achieve with what I said, and my motivation and my intentions were pure, to the good of all and the harm of none. Remember that. So if you've been harmed by somebody and they have wronged you in a lot of ways, you can still take the posture of your position. Some of you are listening and you're saying, well, I don't think I want to tell my story. I don't think I need to tell my story. You absolutely could tell your story, and you could spend the time to work through those things. And I promise you, it will bring you closer to people that you never imagined. It will help you become more authentic in how you live your life. When you're at a grocery store, or you're sitting with new friends, or you're in a retreat setting, or maybe you're in a new job or whatever, you never know how you may feel led to share this part of you. It actually helps you become more vulnerable with people, and they copy. You become vulnerable, they become vulnerable. You build deeper bonds and deeper connections. If you're single and you want to be in a relationship, owning parts of your story is very important. Being able to share them from a healthy, whole place, or even if you just need to get it out, it's fine. Um, but I think it's important for us to be able to look back on our lives and take an account for what we've experienced, to metabolize it, and then to offer it to others as a gift. You live through it. You know your story. The last thing I would say about telling your story is you need to know, first of all, you need to know why you're telling it. You need to be okay with the fallout of other people. Give it time. Make sure you're speaking from your experience in a way that's grounded, because your future self will thank you for that later. And then the last part of storytelling is it allows you to see a part of you that you've never seen before. When we are consumers and we're taking in all the time, we're rarely in the driver's seat. We're rarely the ones giving when we are always taking. This allows us to be the giver and to give in a way that costs us something. They say vulnerability is when you share things that people wouldn't have known had you not told them. Your story is powerful. It's redemptive. It's healing. It helps connect with other people. It helps you connect with parts of yourself. When I said that and shared my story for the first time publicly like that, I felt alive. I felt like there was nothing that could stop me. I was no longer afraid. Fear was immediately gone, because I saw that I could do what I want to do. And you're gonna have to close YouTube down. Okay. You're gonna have to pay somebody to take this video down, because I did it. I survived. I lived it. It's okay. It showed me, keep talking if you want to about your own experiences. Don't worry about it being perfect. Don't worry about saying the right thing all the time. You may fumble a little bit. You might, especially if you're not a communicator, you might kind of just just let it all out. That's okay. That's the point of being able to share it with people in your life that you trust, to work a little bit of the kinks out. Don't forget that sharing your story doesn't always have to be something you do verbal. It may be something you write in a blog, in a book. It may be an email you send out. It might be a video that you record. It may be an audio note that you record and send out. Sharing your story can happen in a variety of different ways. The goal is for you to be heard. The goal is whatever you set, to the benefit of all and the harm of none. Manage your intentions I'm so excited. I think I need to do a master class in a webinar so you can actually write it out. Some people will give you line by line and crafting and all. I'm not that type of storyteller. I'm authentic. And the more you stage it and set it up, the more people who are listening can tell that you did this for a reason. When you just tell the truth and you just tell it like it is, this is what happened. This is what I learned from it. This is where I am now. And this is where I'm still growing. Done. My dad died when I was young. And I'm giving you an example. My dad died when I was young. I struggled. I lost hope. It was the darkest and most painful season of my life. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to be. This affected my relationships. It affected how I chose partners. I didn't choose the right people, and those people hurt me. I learned in therapy. I learned in life. I learned as I continued living that I was really hiding the pain of my dad's loss and trying to find fulfillment in other people who didn't mean any good for me. So now that I'm seeking love, I'm putting the pieces back together for my life. And this is something that I feel like maybe other people can benefit from. That do your work. When you're going through it, grieve, go to therapy, do what you need to do and heal. Do it differently than I did. Do it your way. But whatever it is, this is the take home that I have. Thank you so much for listening. Done. You shared what happened. You can go into detail. You can talk about the day you got the call. I never forgot. It was midnight. The phone rang. Describe the scene to us. What happened that day? We want to know. We care about you. That's how you have videos on Instagram and Facebook that can go viral of people saying, I have 7 days to live and I'm dying. And we are interested, we are invested because humanity does care. We care. Set the scene for us. Tell us what it was like. What were the birds doing? What sounds did you hear? What feelings did you feel? What was that moment like when that person came in your room when you were 12 years old? Tell us the story. What did it feel like when you told your mom what happened and she didn't believe you? Tell us. We want to hear you. What it was like to go through life from that moment on with the hole in your soul. What is that like? How did you overcome that? How are you still struggling with that still today in your 60s? I want to know. We all do. Your story is powerful. It also helps you overcome. It helps to remind you of your own growth, and it shows you places that you still need love and care. We often think that when we share our stories, they need to be complete. We need to have the happy ending. I did not have a happy ending. When I shared my story, I was dead smack. Like I was a few months removed and I had some distance, but I was in the thick of it. I had no idea what was going to take place. It wasn't all figured out. It wasn't all solved, but I knew the next right step was to keep talking. And then I'm going to add this. Share your story. Do your work. And then there's going to come a point in your journey where you're not going to talk about it anymore. You just won't. We don't want you to have a life where you are stuck at the scene of the crime. That's the point of uncovering and unveiling and exposing and sharing, because you get it out. A lot of us have held on to our experiences and they're suffocating us because they're dying to be known and understood by somebody else. So you say it, you speak it, you get it out, then you properly let it go, release it, and you move on. We don't want you at the scene of the crime. Some people in their life feel called to do that. They feel called to rehearse what happened to them over and over again to help other people. You need to be called to that. I discovered very quickly that it was going to be impossible for me to go on into a happy new future rehearsing the past. I only use it as a touch point because it's a pain point for me that's recent. meaning in the last 3 years. And it is what has redefined my entire life, was going through that and becoming the type of person that I needed to be for the rest of my life. So it's not a negative anymore. I've reframed it. I've accepted. I've allowed it to be. And it's time to move on. So I'm so excited. I want you to let me know if you're watching, let me know in the comments a bit of your story. How have you shared? Do you feel called to share your story? What's one takeaway from this video that you can apply to continue on your journey? What's one area that you think, okay, I can do that? Maybe you can't do it all. Maybe you're not ready to be in the public and talking from a stage, but some of you will have, your story will make room for you. God didn't allow you to go through everything you went through for no reason. And you may not think it's relatable. You may not think it's anything of importance, but it really is. So I want to hear from you. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. How are you using your story to make a difference? And until next time, I'll see you soon.